So do you ever wonder how a wholesaling company actually determines what exit strategy they're going to use? Obviously, wholesaling is usually our first option, but how do we determine if we're going to flip it or keep it or wholesale it? Stay tuned and I'll tell you how we do it. Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for joining me. My name is Graylan Stewart. I am a real estate investor and entrepreneur, and my channel is all about wholesaling real estate. So if you're new, I tell you all the good, bad, and the ugly about wholesaling. But today's video, I'm going to talk about, how do we determine our actual exit strategy? Because there's several exit strategies we could do, right? Obviously, wholesaling is just an exit strategy. So in my company, our number one choice, our first choice, every single deal is to wholesale it. But obviously, not every deal is wholesalable. So if you don't understand why, let me try to tell you real quick, okay? So in order to wholesale a house, we have to have equity, right? That's the number one rule in wholesaling. You need equity in a property to be able to make a spread, okay? Because the whole thing in wholesaling real estate is basically us playing the middleman, right? We're getting a contract with a motivated seller at a discount compared to what the retail value could be after it's all fixed up. Now we sell that discounted contract to an end buyer that actually wants to fix and flip it or keep it as a rental. And then we just sell that at a higher price and we make the spread in between. So we're literally the middleman, right? So wholesaling as an exit strategy is my company. In my company, it's our number one kind of option that we choose to do, okay? So why do we choose that? The biggest reason is it's duplicatable. It's cash flow. It's consistent, like ATM type of money, cash, right? And then that cash, when you have cash, it gives you options, okay? So what do I mean by options? I'm not talking about just lifestyle and, the people that flash Lambos and all those things, right? Of course, some people want that. I don't really care about that necessarily, but cash flow just gives you options. Whether you want to buy, the fancy cars or, all the fancy jewelry or whatever it is, or maybe you want to buy more real estate so you can actually create wealth and not just have a high-paying career, okay? So I look at wholesaling it's our ATM, it's our cash flow, it's what funds the things that we want to do in real estate, okay? So how do we determine what we can wholesale and what we're going to fix and flip and what we're going to keep as rentals, okay? Now, everybody's different, so I'm just telling you what we do in my business. And to be completely honest, I've never actually bought a house with the intentions of flipping it. Not one time that I can remember. Every time that I can remember so far, I could be wrong. There might be one or so, but, because I've been doing this for going on 4 years now, but I never bought a house with the intentions of flipping it. But I have flipped a ton of houses. I think last year we did 13 flips in 2021, which isn't a ton because there's people that do that many every month, But I'm talking about actual flips, where you actually buy the property with your own money, private money, hard money, the bank's money. Nevertheless, you close on the property with money, and then you actually put money into the property in rehab to fix it up and sell it on the retail market. Okay. So I've done a bunch of those at this point in my career, but I've never done one on purpose. So the reason I say that is we typically end up flipping a house when we know it's a really good deal that we should make money on, but for whatever reason we couldn't wholesale it. Because as I said, in my business, every deal that we try to do, every deal that we get under contract, our ultimate goal is to wholesale it. Even the novation contracts that we get, we still try to wholesale those first because that's easier, right? It's easy just to assign our contract to another buyer, and then we're kind of out of the way once they put their earnest money down, and then we're just waiting for closing. But it's not always that simple. There's buyers. There's a ton of buyers out there, and they all are looking for something different, right? A lot of times it's similar, but they all have different buy boxes, different criteria that they're looking for specifically. So whether they're fixing it to flip it or fixing it to keep it as a rental, everybody is a little bit different. So everybody's a little bit different as far as what they want. It just kind of determines. It depends on the buyer, is what I'm trying to say. But nevertheless, so you've got your fix and flippers, you've got your buy and hold people, and that's the ones that we wholesale to. Okay, so now when you actually flip a house, you make more profit typically. But as I said, how do you determine if you're going to flip it or wholesale it? So really, our goal is always wholesale. But when you're thinking about a flipper's mindset, and companies that do a little bit of everything like we do, typically, if you can make, a huge fee flipping it as opposed to a quick 10,000 just wholesaling it, then the better option, obviously, if you have the money to do it and everything's set in place, the better option is to flip it. Because if you can make $70,000, over maybe it takes you 2 or 3 months to do that deal, then that's obviously smarter probably than making a quick 10,000. Because let's be honest, the flipper actually makes more money than we would make. Okay, so but also the same mindset, on rentals. A lot of people that buy rentals, and most of the rentals, just to be transparent, most of my rentals I have is the same thing as my flips. Somebody didn't want it for whatever reason, and I decided not to flip it because it made sense as a rental. Bought it cheap enough, the cash flow is good enough, and things like that. So I look at it as a cash flow type of deal when I'm looking at rentals. I want to make, usually $300 to $400 per month minimum after the property insurance, taxes, the mortgage, insurance, everything that's entailed. Property interest, taxes, and insurance. So after all of that and vacancies, you got to account for that stuff too, and potential repairs if you don't repair it up front. So at the end of the day, I want to make $300 to $400 to cash flow minimum, right? Now, also, I want equity in every deal. There's some investors that buy rentals just for the cash flow. There's some investors out there that buy rentals just for the equity. And now I'm different because I buy rentals for both. I want equity and cash flow. So usually, I typically, if I'm going to keep the rental, I typically have at least 50% equity, and then it usually, like I said, can cash flow $300 to $400 a month. Now I have some properties that cash flow well over $1,000 a month, but that's kind of just my threshold that I'm comfortable with. I want at least $300 or $400 to make it worth my while, right? So the way that we determine if we're going to wholesale it, keep it as a rental, or flip it is exactly that. If we can't wholesale it, then I'm going to contemplate one of the other two, okay? So if I can't wholesale it, I'm obviously going to look at, okay, what's the price of this house? Is it low enough to where I'm going to have a bunch of equity left over and cash flows big? Or is the flip potential good enough and to where we can make, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 on it? But also it depends on the current cash flow situation. Maybe we didn't do as many wholesale deals lately, and I need to wholesale it just to get that quick money to fund, the business and things like that. So that's where it's better just to wholesale the deal and make a quick 10. But if I can afford it and cash flow is good, then it's better to wait the 2 months to make the 70, if that makes sense. And then if everything's going good, I've got flips going where I'm making big money, continuous wholesale and consistent wholesale deals, it definitely makes the most sense to keep it. Because the ultimate goal here, at least my goal, and it should be your goal too, is to create wealth and to have financial freedom. And really in real estate, the biggest way and the best way to do that is to acquire rentals. Because the rentals, you got to think about like this. The rental property is not only, we're going to have it with equity because we buy direct to seller at a discount, right? So even after you remodel it and you rehab it and everything, and even if you refinance the property with a bank, you're still going to have 20 to 30% equity typically left in the deal. So it's creating wealth over time. But not only that, that increases usually every year, especially when the market's hot. But even if the market dips, over the long trajectory of life, it's always going up. So you're always going to have that equity to build your wealth, your net worth, but you're also going to have cash flow, and your wealth actually increases every single day because you have a tenant actually paying off your mortgage. So it's paying down the principal every single day, which means it increases your wealth every single day because then you have more equity every single day. So eventually your house is getting paid off by somebody else, to where you literally have a free house. Especially after you refinance, you typically get all your money back, sometimes more than you've put into it, and it's tax-free because it's in the loan. So you got a property that you kept. You still got your wholesale fee because typically if you're buying direct to seller, you got it cheap enough to where after you remodel it, you've got like 30 or 40% equity left, and then you refi up to 75 to 80. So you've got that free, tax-free money, which you could call kind of your wholesale fee, but you got to keep the house too, and you're getting cash flow, and it's increasing your wealth every month. And somebody else is paying your mortgage down, and you get the tax benefits of depreciation, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely the ultimate goal for you and for me should be to actually keep properties, because you can make just as much money as wholesale as long as your cash flow is right. But that's why we do all three, to be honest. Wholesales give us the cash flow consistency, right? And it helps fund the remodels and the flips and, buying holes and things like that. And then, like I said, I still only flip out of necessity. But I take that risk because I know what we have. If we have a good deal and somebody just didn't want it because of the area they don't like or the town or whatever it might be, I'm going to take that on because I know it's worth it. So when you get really good at comping and the ARV, and you get really good at remodeling and knowing your pricing, then there's really no risk in that. Like it's a calculated risk, So yes, there's always unforeseen things, but when you buy it so deep like we do, you still have room that you can kind of mess it up, if that makes sense, to where you still win on the deal. Because there's definitely, flips I've done that we had hoped to make more money than we did, but we still come out pretty good, right? Like there's definitely flips I thought I would make 50 on, but we ended up making 35. Cry me a river. So that's still a good deal. It just wasn't as good as we thought. So there's still room. That's what I'm saying. If you buy it good enough and deep enough, that's the benefit of going direct to seller, y'all. You have more options, and you get the deal at a deeper discount as opposed to the flipper buying from you. They're buying from you at 75%, typically all in. But if I buy it, if I keep it myself, I've got it at 50%. So I've got more equity, more room to play, more profit to make because I went direct to seller. Of course, it costs me more because I do the marketing for it and I have people to pay and things like that. But at the end of the day, we still have a way deeper discount than the end buyer. So moral of the story is buy more properties, do whatever you want to. Our main strategy is to wholesale just because we get consistent cash flow, and then we flip when we need to make the big checks. But ultimately, buying and holding properties is ultimate wealth. So my goal is to do more of that, especially in 2022. That's kind of my goal now, just to acquire more, especially when cash flow is good, because like I said, when you refi out, when you're direct to seller, you typically get extra money back. So you might get an extra 10 or 15 after you pay yourself back. And that's tax-free. The reason it's tax-free because it's in your loan, so that's why you can get that money right away. And it's almost like a wholesale fee, but you kept the property and you're making money on it forever. So anyways, hopefully all that made sense. Thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate you. Please like, share, subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. I appreciate that. And I'll see you guys in the future videos.